Good evening and welcome to your Wednesday Wednesday Wellness Live, because it is. Let me just turn this down. Stop playing on there. Welcome. It's Wednesday. This is your Wellness Wednesday live session on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. What a lovely few days it's been. Bright and sunny and a little bit snowy. You know, I've got a little story to tell you. I went out walking yesterday, and within about 20 minutes of walking out, I looked like a snowman because this blizzard hit. It was the most bizarre and surreal yet wonderful thing ever. I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. So, how are you doing? How is everybody doing? We are 2 weeks into February. The nights are getting much, much lighter. Through and through, we are fast heading towards March. I think it's the end of March that the clocks change. Get in, yes, yes. So yeah, welcome. Tonight we're going to look at esteem, and in particular low self-esteem. So such a tricky subject sometimes. But before we do that, as everybody settles down and joins in, I've got a question. My question is, in what ways did you show yourself or improve your self-compassion over the last week? So last week, we covered self-compassion, we looked at that. So I'm wondering, in what ways did you improve your ability to show self-compassion? Drop your answers into the feed, okay? Just really interested into, and it's not that I want to hold you accountable for things that you may have learned in here, because I'm not here to be no, I'm not going to do that. But it would just be really interesting to see whether anything resonated with you, or anything, you took anything away. So drop your answers into the feed. I'm just turning a little fan on because it always gets warm in here. Evening, everybody that is joining in the feeds. Thank you so much for being here. As I say often, these feeds wouldn't be anything without your interactions. So, esteem, self-esteem. So I've got a couple of quick quotes, not quotes, but descriptions of esteem, because I could tell you what it is, but sometimes it's easier if I read it. And the reason I'm doing esteem this week is because a few people have asked for self-esteem. A few people are struggling with it. A few people have struggled with it over the years. So I thought it's always a bit of a contentious place to go, because some people are really uncomfortable with it. But I really wanted to go there given how many people have asking for it. Okay. In psychology, the term self-esteem is used to describe a person's overall sense of self-worth or personal value. In other words, how much you appreciate and like yourself. Self-esteem, often seen as a personality trait, which means it tends to be stable and enduring. There was something in that just very, very slightly triggered me, and it was how much you appreciate and like yourself. So here's what's interesting. So very, very slight trigger for me in that one, and I think it triggered me into that place of arrogant, overconfident, cocky, because it used the words like yourself. And for me, that's one of the difficulties with self-esteem, and particularly positive self-esteem, is because it can be seen as being very arrogant or very cocksure of oneself. Okay. So that's one description. The other one is self-esteem is the opinion we have of ourselves. When we have healthy self-esteem, we tend to feel positive about ourselves and about life in general. It makes us better able to deal with life's ups and downs. When our self-esteem is low, we tend to see ourselves and our life in a more negative and critical view. I sometimes describe self-esteem as it's like a veil that hangs over our world, and everything we see or interact with, we interact through this veil. And if the veil is low self-esteem, then that's how we interact. So, for example, somebody gives you some critical feedback at work, and they give you 5 positives, and they give you 1 negative, or 1 learning point, as I like to say, and all you hear is this one. This little one here, interesting, I put my little finger up, this little one here, that's all you hear. You don't hear these 5 here, you focus on that part there. And I'm going to explain my beliefs around that in a moment. Just writing that down. So remember. Let's see what we've got in the feed around how you've been practicing self-compassion over the last week. Come on, give me some answers. I think everybody's still settling down. Les has put, I've been walking a lot more. Get in. Amanda's put, I love walking in the snow, not slow, snow, which is amazing. Love walking in the snow. It's really, the snow's really bright, isn't it? Isn't it funny how we love snow? Doesn't matter how deep it gets, we love it because it's playful and we can build snowmen, have snowball fights. Rain, not so much. Not doing the rain. For anybody that's just joined, the question was, in what ways did you show yourself or improve your self-compassion over the last week? Because last week we looked at self-compassion. So if you want to feed those into the feed, that would be fantastic. If you don't want to feed into the feed, that's absolutely fine. If you want to sit back and just listen and watch other people interact, then I'm really good with that. This is your space and I want you to use it in a way that you want to use it. We're doing self-esteem this week because several people have asked for self-esteem. There's also put, I had a pamper day in the hot tub, a facial, etc. Great examples of self-esteem, not self-esteem, self-compassion. You know, the one we talked about last week was a really nice one, and it was hand cream and taking some hand cream. Yes, that's the hand cream. Taking some hand cream and like really massaging it in, but really going into the cracks of your fingers and kind of really doing your fingers and your nails and everything. And there's something really compassionate about that to yourself. And I also mentioned last week doing that on your feet as well. And I absolutely stand by that. And I said last week that some people might think, oh, why is nobody else doing my feet before me? You do your feet. You do this. You do your feet because it is a really good way of showing ourselves self-compassion. Okay, so that's just like a tiny one right there for you. So why, when we are at work and somebody gives us 5 positives about a piece of work we've done and then they give us one little learning point here, why do we focus on this one here? For me, it comes back to the primal need to survive. And for me, a lot of things go back to that point there. So our primal need to survive is about if I focus on this one here, then I'm going to protect myself. And if I protect myself, then I'm going to be more able to survive the world around me. If I just focus on these 5 here, these 5 that I nailed, these 5 that I got right, then I'm not protected against the world around me. Only this one here will protect me against the world around me. So that's why I believe it's hard for us sometimes to see our positives. We are almost like wired up to focus on this one here. Even though there's only one little one here and there's 5 here, we focus on this one here. And that's fine because, you know, the primal need is really important, but it is really, if we don't ever see these 5, then we end up with very low self-esteem, which can have longer term consequences, some of which can be quite catastrophic sometimes. You know, if you're in an unhealthy relationship which is abusive or verbally abusive or abusive in any way, quite often they come from places of low self-esteem. Okay, hi Helen is what I wanted to say there. Oh, nice one. So Lindsay's spot, I did my hard-working feet. Yes, I love that. Get some cream on there. Love that. It's fantastic. So yeah, self-compassion, rub your hands, rub your feet. We were looking at self-esteem. 3 different types of self-esteem. There is high self-esteem. No, let's start off with good self-esteem, right in the middle, nice balance. Low self-esteem, and then right on the other end of the scale is exasperated or over. What did I write down here? 3 different types. Oh, I didn't write it down. It's when we are overly confident, when we are exaggerated, I think is the word that I use, exaggerated self-esteem. Exaggerated self-esteem is when it's up here, good self-esteem, and then low self-esteem here. Good self-esteem is just a really nice balance of yes, I see what I'm good at, but yes, I see my learning points as well. So I see everything in balance. You know, balance being one of my favorite words. Uh, High self-esteem, people with very high self-esteem. So it's an over-exaggerated belief that they are the best. That can be dangerous in its own way because we think we are better than actually we are. So we present ourselves into the world in with higher regard than is worthy of us, which can be quite damaging sometimes. Okay. Uh, so high self-esteem, good self-esteem, low self-esteem. We're going to focus mostly on low self-esteem today, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because when I do work in here, a lot of the work that I do in here is around low self-esteem. So I cobbled some figures together years ago in terms of a training course that I was doing. And the figures that I cobbled together were about 80% of people that present in here at some point present with low self-esteem. About 80% of the people that arrive in here have some sort of script going on that is not good enough. Not good enough, not worthy, or low self-esteem. Here's where it gets really interesting. Only about half of that number will actually engage in their low self-esteem and own it. So only half of that 80%, and then only half of that number will then actually agree to do some direct work on their self-esteem. It's getting better actually. I've been in private practice now for 7 years, and I have noticed that over the years that figure I think is getting better and better. I think in society we are getting better and better at talking about it and just being okay with it. So we're going to focus tonight on low self-esteem. Let me have a slurp. Sorry for slurping. Oh, great question. Great question. Is there a difference between self-confidence and self-esteem? Thank you for asking that, because I may have forgotten to talk about it. So yeah, there's a massive difference between self-confidence and self-esteem. Self-esteem comes from usually from childhood. We develop our sense of self very, very early on. You can't see it in my hand, but it's right down here. Very, very early on, through primary carers that will help us develop our sense of self and not squashes us anyway, or not over inflate us in any way in terms of, oh my God, you're amazing, you're wonderful, and all of that, because we are human and we have fault lines. So self-esteem comes from a very, very early age. Self-confidence comes from things that we learn. So a distinct lesson that not a lesson, a distinct thing that I see often in therapy is people that have had massively successful careers, really confident, really up there, CEOs and directors of companies, and then they come in here because they have low self-esteem. They don't know it's low self-esteem in the beginning, but it's low self-esteem, or low self-worth, or low self-value, however you want to understand it. The difference between the two is that we can have low self-esteem, but then go into the world of work and recreate ourselves in terms of having this massive, successful career, but it's learned. So very simply, the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence is confidence is learned. Here's my example on confidence, and I may have said this before. I might say to any one of you now, any one of you beautiful people watching me right now, I want you to go on stage and I want you to deliver in front of 5,000 people a deeper understanding of what psychoanalytical therapy is. And you might go, I'm not doing that, I can't do that, 5,000 people, keynote speech, not doing that. And then if I said, but I'm going to pay you £1 million, different story, you would soon be stepping forward and going, okay, yeah, I'll learn how to do that for £1 million. That's the difference. That's the difference right there. Learned, and then with my mic, created, which comes from here, which comes from childhood. That's the difference between those. Thank you for that question. Don't forget, during this feed, you can ask me any question you want. You can keep it to self-esteem if you want, or you can move it on to other subjects. I will do my best to ask the questions. The other question that I had for you was, and I would just want you to think about this over the next kind of like 45 minutes or so is, what do you want me to cover over the next few weeks? Okay, we're halfway through February, we're going through to the end of March. I want to deliver subjects that you want to hear. So please let me know what you want me to deliver, because it's really important that I pitch it just right for you, okay? So, thanks for that question. That was great. Oh, and don't forget to share the feed. We share the feed because it gets more viewers, and if it gets more viewers, then this content, this valuable content, is going out to more people. So please share. That would be much appreciated. I'm just going to do that as I'm talking to you. Boom. See, I shared. How quickly was that? Oh, there. How quickly was that? How quick was that? Not how quickly. So self-esteem is the opinion we have of ourselves. When we have healthy self-esteem, we tend to feel positive about ourselves and about life in general. It makes us feel better able to deal with life's ups and downs. When our self-esteem is low, we tend to see ourselves and our life in a more negative and critical light. It's almost like having I don't know, if you have low self-esteem, it's almost like having a dark shadow cast across you at all times. I want to be really honest with you. I have come from a place of very low self-esteem for a lot of my life. I was a real conflict for a lot of my life, because I appear very confident, and I've done all sorts of jobs that would which would mean that I was out in front of public. So a lot of people would never have looked at me and gone, it's got low self-esteem, but I actually had, leading into some really unhealthy relationships. So when we look at the causes of low self-esteem, and I look at my childhood was pretty cushy. Honestly, it really was. There was absolutely nothing wrong with my childhood, but there were reasons why. Maybe I'll go into some of them later, some of the lighter ones. There was a reason why I came out of it with low self-esteem. But actually, I couldn't see my low self-esteem until much later in my life, because it was clouded by this confidence, this very confident, cocky young man that would do anything and nothing really fazed me. So there's again the difference between self-esteem and confidence, a learned confidence. Some signs of low self-esteem: sensitive to criticism. If you have low self-esteem, you may be extra sensitive to criticism from others or from yourself. Social withdrawal, so just pulling back from people. Hostility. Excessive preoccupation with personal problems, so that like a worry, it's like a constant worry. Oh my goodness, and it's all about self. So just a really unhealthy preoccupation with self and your personal problems, because again, if we feel we have personal problems, then it allows us to feel unsafe in the world around us. So there's signs of low self-esteem, causes of low self-esteem. Some of the many causes of low self-esteem may include unhappy childhood. Just check what I'm reading. I'm going to argue with this a little bit. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to argue with it a little bit. And I want to share this as an example of something that I pulled off the internet earlier, but I want to share it in terms of, we can't believe that everything that we read off the internet. So some of the many causes of low self-esteem may include unhappy childhood where parents or significant people, such as teachers, were extremely critical. Yes, but not always. There doesn't need to be extreme criticism in place for low self-esteem to happen. Poor academic performance in school resulting in lack of confidence. Here's where I want to start arguing. I'm going to list them out to you. Poor academic performance in school, outgoing stressful life events such as relationship breakdown or financial trouble, poor treatment from a partner, parent or carer, for example, being in an abusive relationship, ongoing medical problems such as chronic pain, serious illness or physical disability, mental illness such as anxiety disorder or depression. Apart from the first one, all of the rest come from having low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is definitely developed in childhood. It then is validated or compounded later on in life. So when they say poor academic performance in school, only if low self-esteem is there first. If good self-esteem is in place, then we have poor academic performance in school, then chances are we're going to be okay. But if we have low self-esteem and then we have poor academic performance, then it's just going to compound the low self-esteem. But if self-esteem's here and then we have low academic performance, then the chances are this good self-esteem here can raise this a little bit in terms of turning it into a learning point. And I wanted to use that as an example of not everything we read on the internet is correct. The part there about relationships, poor relationships, abusive relationships, I'm absolutely convinced that nobody would stay in an abusive relationship if they thought or felt that they were worthy of something different. So sometimes when I have discussions with people, I say, where do you think the low self-esteem's come from? And they might go, well, when I was 22, I went through a separation, or when I was 25, somebody passed away. And it always goes back further than that. It always goes back to childhood. That's where the roots, that's where the very roots are laid down. And if they're laid down in a really positive way, then the chances are there's going to be good self-esteem in place. Children need to be cared for, they need to be heard, they need to be looked after. More than all of that, they need to feel like they're safe in the world that they live, because having a sense of safety allows us then to develop everything else we need to develop. If there's no sense of safety, then it's difficult for us to develop some of our other skills, just like personality traits. So look at this. I have very low self-esteem for years now, which lead to very unhealthy relationships. I'm loving learning more on this. Thank you. You're very welcome. Honestly, I sometimes look at low self-esteem and it almost feels like a plague I don't know, it's taken over the world. Really interesting. About 4 years ago, I tried to run a workshop on low self-esteem, and I didn't get any takers whatsoever, like no takers. And when I look back, I think I had the marketing completely wrong, because I used the words low self-esteem. And what I do now is I tend to change it a little bit. I tend to change it around, and I don't use those words because people don't like associating with those words. But yeah, no takers whatsoever. And I was like, hold on a minute. Nearly everybody that walks through my door, 80% of, have low self-esteem, yet nobody wants to sit and do some direct work on it, which I thought was quite fascinating. I wonder now how that would alter, or how that would change. Excuse me. Elizabeth, do you think a lot of people have low self-esteem? Yeah, I do. Low self-worth, low self-esteem, and I promise you that for when you see people that are really, really confident and they're out there and they're brash and they've got a cocky walk on them, man or woman, it doesn't matter, then I see somebody that is insecure. I see somebody that is kind of struggling in some way, and they have an inner that isn't reflective of their outer, let's say. But yeah, I think a lot of people have low self-worth because I don't think we've fully understood yet how we develop positive self-esteem in childhood. I use this trick, it's not a trick quite a lot with people and parents, and I say to them, if your child comes home, when you get a piece of lemon, if your child comes home and shows you a picture, this is the balance that we want. Look what I've done. And mum or dad, our primary carer, go, oh my God, that's amazing, that's so wonderful, oh my God, that's fantastic, I love that. You're giving them validation, which they love and which they need a little bit. Then what we do is we go, tell me why you like it. Tell me what you love about it, because that's what I'm really interested in. Tell me about that part. When we do that part there, we help them develop their own sense of self. We help them develop who they are and actually what they do like about the picture. And if they start going down that route of, oh, I really hate it and I don't like that colour and I went over the line there, and they do stuff like that, no, you go, no. Tell me what you like about it. Because then we have a sign of they're going down the negative route. I did this wrong, I did that wrong, I did this wrong. No. Pull them back and say, tell me what you like about it, and draw out of them what they like about the picture. There's an exercise that I do in, there's a few I do in therapy, around developing self-esteem. and there's one. It's based on the the butterfly hug that I do often with you. It's based on that, and what I have to do is I have to write an A4 sheet of paper on what I call I statements. So I statements are I am proud of myself because I like myself because I like that I have achieved my capabilities are all things about self, whether it be personality or achievements or capabilities, all of that. And I have to fill a full sheet to complete the exercise, and then we go on to do something else. And some people nail it, some people do it. Middle ground, some people will give me 3. I did it the other day with somebody, and they gave me 3, and I went, oh, I'm really struggling, and I pushed and I pushed, and we squeezed and we squeezed, and then about 25 minutes later, we had a full sheet, which was fantastic. And then we were able to complete the exercise. So sometimes it's like a squeeze. We have to squeeze it out of there. So, what comments do we have? A lot of comments here. Oh, sorry, I've missed some. Yes, people are managed to have dreadful issues with low self-esteem. Theatre, absolutely, absolutely. And so theatre, TV, singers, anybody in the public eye, quite often, I'm not in the public eye, I'm doing a little Facebook feed. Everybody in the public eye, quite often, they have almost like recreated themselves to present themselves into this world, and they just become, not everybody, I don't believe everybody does that, but I think a lot. I think there is a lot of people in the public eye that would openly admit. When you look at the really kind of famous open people, like I'm thinking of Stephen Fry, for example, bipolar, I believe. Stephen Fry, Robin Williams, depression. We lost him. A lot of the people are amazing in front of the camera, and they're fantastic because they've created that. But actually, inside here, which is the real core of self-esteem, they're, oh my goodness, they absolutely struggle. So I agree with that comment, Philippa. Leslie, I think social media can trigger me and my low self-esteem. Absolutely, because social media is all about, well, look at me, look at me, look at me, look how wonderful I am. I have never once posted a bad picture of myself on social media. Call me a fake, call me what you want, but I have never done that, and I'm never going to. I'm always going to look happy, and I'm never going to do. I'm never going to do a selfie first thing in the morning. Never going to do that, and I wouldn't subject you to that either. Gemma's put, how as an adult can we increase our self-esteem? Ooh, we're going to go on to that. I've got an absolute full list of things that we can do to increase and cover our self-esteem. The list is right in front of me. Philippa has put, they come across as hugely confident, but inside they are really struggling. Yeah, there's something like, there's like a switch that as soon as they get in front of the lights or the camera or wherever their stage is, so to speak, they just go into it. They just, it just turns on. We started watching a program yesterday, and it was about a presenter. I think it's on Netflix, and there was a piece of filming of her, and she was backstage, and she was really, and you could see she was going through all these flashbacks, and then she walked out in front of the camera and just smiled and went hello, and she was like there, the presenter. But backstage, like 30 seconds previous, she was thinking about all these flashbacks, which were PTSD, I believe. So absolutely. Let's support. Gosh, that's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought the opposite. In your professional, it's the same in hairdressing. Philippa's book, can people you surround yourself as an adult actually add to low self-esteem? Or I think, I'm not sure that's typed wrong, but I think what you mean is, can they add to it or can they take it away? That's the question. I'm going to answer that question. Absolutely, yeah. We can be surrounded by people that bring to our table, so to speak, and shore us up and are always there for us, or we can be around people that drag us down, that every time we get a bit of success, they start nipping away at us. So be careful of, thank you for bringing that in, because it's a really interesting point. Be careful who you're around. and be mindful to be around people that shore you up and lift you and celebrate your achievements and don't try and drag you away from that. Be around people that bring to your table. I always think of friendships as like this huge table, and we all sit at the table and we all bring something to eat and then we share it. But then, there are those people that arrive at the table with nothing. They don't bring anything to the table, but they eat everybody else's food, and then they go away with a full belly, whilst everybody else has gone away with a slightly less full belly. So ensure that people that you're around are bringing to your table and eat together and share food. There are occasions in life, in relationships, and all kinds of relationships where somebody might be struggling and you take to the table and they eat with you, and then on another occasion they bring to the table and you eat with them. But if you're constantly arriving at the table with somebody and they are constantly not bringing something to the table, then question the friendship and question what it's doing to your self-esteem, because that part's really important. Okay. Ooh, that got deep. I used this on my 8-year-old daughter this week from one of your lives. I will continue just knowing that extra question to ask. Yeah, that was the question around, tell me what you like about it. Honestly, it's so powerful. Tell me what you like about it. Tell me what. Because we can feed them all the validation they want, but all we're doing then is inflating them. And actually, I want to see young people and adults be able to inflate themselves a little bit, because sometimes we need that. Okay? Hadra had a very special birthday this week, didn't you, Hadra? Hey? I think I've got good self-esteem. I wasn't like that before, but I've been very lucky to have some lovely people around me who have helped me become more confident about myself. Get in. Yeah, be around people that help with that. Let's have a little look at the clock on my laptop's dimmed for some reason. Let's have a look at some tips around building self-esteem. So I've actually given you the first one without even knowing it. So it's around being around people that shore you up and don't drag you down. Remember the table. Remember the table analogy. If you are constantly sitting with people that are just taking food off you but not bringing anything back, then I would question the relationship. And I know that sounds harsh, but if you want to grow personally, and I'm guessing you do want to grow personally because you're sat doing something like this, then question the people that you're around, okay? We want people that shore us up for definite. Self-esteem is strongly related to how you view and react to the things that happen in your life. Suggestions for building self-esteem include: talk to yourself positively. How do we talk to ourselves positively? In the same way that we talk to ourselves negatively most of the time. You know, that we've talked about this loads, that little inner critical dialogue. You know, the one that goes, oh my God, what did you do that for? What did you say that for? You shouldn't have sent that text. What are you wearing that for? You look ugly today. Oh, you look terrible. You look so fat. I can't believe you're eating again. Little inner critical dialogue. When I read that, talk to yourself positively, it sounds easy. Yeah, just give yourself some positive talk. We have to hear, and I've done this before, hear it, challenge it, change it. Hear your inner dialogue, whether it be critical or otherwise, hear it. If it's not helpful, then change it. No, challenge it. So challenge it by, I don't know, taking it to a court of law and questioning whether the information that is being presented is correct. And the third thing is change it. If you've taken it to a court of law, for example, any critical dialogue is going, oh my God, you're so fat in that. Take it to a court of law, and the judge goes, what's the charge? My inner critical voice says, I look fat in this. Okay, do we have evidence to back that up? No, we don't have any evidence whatsoever. My clothes still fit me, still the same weight. And then the judge goes, okay, get out my court. There's no evidence there. There's no evidence to back it up. If there's no evidence to back it up, then we change it to something that isn't, oh my God, I look so fat in that. Hear it, challenge it, change it. Once we do that, then we can start developing a more positive self-talk. For example, I look really nice in this today, or I feel comfortable in this today, or I like this color on me. Little things like that. Just little things. None of that is arrogant. None of that is arrogant or big-headed or cocky. In the same way that if we were able to hear each other's inner critical dialogue, oh my goodness, I think we would be absolutely shocked. A little exercise that I give to people is I ask them to stop several times a day and take to a piece of pen and paper and just see if they can catch their thoughts. Just see if they can catch what they're thinking. And then what happens is we write it down and then we put it on a piece of paper and then we begin to challenge it. Because honestly, if we don't hear, and I've said this loads of times, if we don't hear the inner critical dialogue that is happening in our heads, then it just continues, and it continues to drag us down and drag us down and drag us down. And we don't want that, do we? Not, and particularly if we want to grow, and particularly if we've got children around, because we don't want our children seeing that. We don't want them to learn from us. We want them to have positive self-esteem. So hear it, challenge it, change it, and turn it into talk that is positive. Okay? Oh, the next one down is challenge negative self-talk. Done that one. Told you about that one. The third one down is don't compare yourself to others. I'm going to come back to that. I don't know what that means. Yes, I know. Oh, I know that too. Amanda's put, yes, I know that too. Well, managed to break free from them. Well done, firstly, for doing that. It's really hard though, isn't it? Because sometimes we can be breaking free for friends that we've had for years and years, and we can all of a sudden look at them and go, you're not a healthy influence on my life, and I want to grow and develop, and I can't have you around whilst I'm trying to do that because you're just dragging me back. So there's a little bit of heartache there, and could be even a little bit of grief in that process in terms of letting people go. Just laughing at I'm just laughing at you lot in this feed. So Philippa has put a really interesting question. But how can you hear it? Because you believe the inner critical voice. Yeah, it's a good point, and that's why I say challenge it, and that's why I say put it onto paper, because when we put it on paper, all of a sudden we see it in black and white, and then we tend to believe it a little bit more in terms of believe that it's being said. But then we look for evidence, and then we begin to unpick it, and that's, oh, do I want to say that? It doesn't, I was just going to say, and that's where therapy comes into its own, because it's like a constant chipping away, trying to get in there and trying to work out why. And honestly, I have so many people that when we work with self-esteem, we work on it for months and months and months, and sometimes years, because we have to chip away at it constantly, and little chips just getting in there. But you're quite right. We believe it, but then we have to challenge it. There's another exercise that I use called What I Believe. What I believe is write down what you learn to believe from then it goes mother, father, siblings, significant others, blah, blah, blah. There's about 6 sections. And then on the page after, then we start to challenge. We start to challenge some of the things that we believed. So what was one of the example that I use often is that I learned that I was stupid from a history teacher, because this history teacher, the example I use all the time in history, didn't like history. This history teacher says, "You're stupid, you are, Guthrie, and you'll never amount to anything." And I heard that, and that one criticism of "you are stupid" stayed with me for years and years, literally years and years, until I found it in my inner dialogue, in my inner psyche one day, and I was like, oh my God, I remember that teacher. I remember what he looked like. I remember the classroom with the blackboard. I remember everything. And because I remember everything in such detail means that it was a real significant point in my life. Then once I found it, then I could go, I'm not stupid. I'm just not an academic learner. I'm not one for doing like loads of papers and all that. I really struggle with academia. I'm very creative. I have a very creative mind. So sometimes we have to really dig deep to find those little pops of criticism that we may have been passed anywhere. I remember years ago, and it still happens now when I walk around town or Tesco's or somewhere and I hear parents going, "Oh my God, you're so stupid you are." And I go, "Oh, no, please don't say that. Please don't say that to them." We have no idea how damaging that is to a little child or to somebody that got 8 out of 10 in a maths test. And then the parents goes, "What happened to the other two?" No. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. How do you feel about it? 8 out of 10. And yeah, that's happened. That's happened where a parent has gone, "What happened to the other two?" Because we want the best for them, but that is not helpful. And as adults, just leaves us with low self-esteem. Uh, Good point. Going to go back there. I'm definitely going to give this a go. Good. Isn't believing your inner critical voice habitual? How do we change that habit? In the same way that we change any habit. And that's why, again, why I like paper. I think I'm learning more and more that sometimes people need a structure, whereas we sit down every day and we journal. So journaling is brilliant for stuff like this. So every day we journal, we capture stuff that we may have heard in our heads and we take it to paper and then we go through that exercise. If we want to change a habit or a behavior, we have to go through the same change every day for, I think it's 30 to 40 days. Between 30 and 40 days, let's say 40 to be on the safe side, if we want to change something. So yeah, I would expect you to sit down with a piece of paper every day for about 40 days to begin to change the inner critical dialogue. Because you're quite right, it does become a habit, but then we have to go in and change it. But maybe we have to do something as obvious as taking it to paper. We can work with it in our heads. We can do that, but that part becomes really difficult. It's just hard to work with it in our heads because in our heads there's like words floating around and there's all sorts of stuff. Whereas if we take it to paper, we can see what we're writing and then we can spidergram out from that, or we can work with what we're writing. And when we write it, we don't necessarily look for sentences, but we look for words or phrases that we hear on a regular basis. Like one of mine used to be, "You're so stupid." Why are you so stupid? What did you do that for? Because people are just going to think you're stupid again. Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Inner critical voice when you look in the mirror. Yeah, absolutely. So we have this habit of looking in the mirror and going straight to the areas of our being that we don't necessarily like. We don't necessarily focus on the parts that we do like. And again, particularly if I'm working with, and I do a lot of this with women, where if they have like some sort of body dysmorphia, and I'll say, okay, so I need you to stand in front of the mirror without your clothes on, just your underwear, and I really need you to focus on the parts of your body that you really like. Quite often it's things like, I don't know, forearm or shoulders or that part of the chest there, or there's nearly always something that we like about ourselves. So we focus on that and that shores us up and begins to develop a stronger sense of self and definitely a better self-esteem. It's an excruciating exercise for a lot of people to do, but I insist that they do it in the privacy of their own home on their own, because it really does help in terms of connecting us with ourselves. But it is tough. Doesn't the way you have been spoken to or treated actually shape your life and who you are? And how, as adults, can we actually change our life as well as ourselves? Quite a scary step to take. It is. And I would say don't take the step if you're happy with where your life is at. But if you are wanting to change your life and you're wanting to grow and you're wanting to develop, then we are going to have to step into some scary, vulnerable, sometimes shaming areas. And that's all about growth. That is definitely how we grow. Let me just check the time. 46. What is that time on? Right, I'm gonna whip through some other. Don't forget, my question was, what would you like me to cover over the next few weeks? Because I'm really keen to have your subjects in here and me delivering them. Okay, so we've got challenge negative self-talk. Don't compare yourself to others. It's really hard to compare ourselves to others. So I could compare myself to somebody that has, I don't know, Spanish blood in them, and they have really nice dark skin and beautiful dark hair. Is that a fair comparison, given their beautiful genetics and my kind of Celtic genetics? Is that fair for me to do that? Is it fair that I would compare myself to somebody that loves going to the gym and lives at the gym and has a six-pack, and that's their life? Is it fair that I would compare myself against somebody like that? No, it's not. Yeah, we do it. I think, again, it comes back to that primal need to feel safe, to feel worthy, to feel good enough. So we're constantly looking out and constantly looking at the landscape. But please look in the mirror and focus on the parts that you do like. Focus on the areas that you do like. Is it your hair? Is it your nose? Is it your neck? What is it you like about yourself? And go down that route. Right, where were we? Acknowledge the positive. For example, don't brush off compliments. Dismiss your achievements as dumb luck, or ignore the positive traits. No, don't do that. Really focus on, if somebody says, I really enjoy that, and I'm holding my hand up here, I still do that. I was in supervision last week, and my supervisor gave me the most wonderful compliment about who I was as a therapist. And I kind of went, yeah, anyway, so, and I wanted to move the conversation on. And she did a great thing, and it's the thing that I do with clients all the time, where she went, can we just stop there for a second? I gave you a compliment. And I went, yeah, I know. And then she went, how did it feel? And then she drew it out of me. But it was really nice. But sometimes it's hard. It's hard for somebody to say, that's a nice shirt. And then for us not to go, oh, this old thing, I've had it for years, or just, bought it from a second-hand shop or whatever. Just to go, thank you. That's really nice of you to say that. Because it is really nice of them to compliment us on whatever it is they compliment us on. So maybe if we're receiving a compliment, maybe we don't dismiss it. Maybe we respect the person that's given us the compliment by saying thank you. I really appreciate that. And maybe by doing that, it helps us take on board the compliment just that little bit more. Appreciate your special qualities. So what qualities do you have that you consider to be special? Are you quite parental? Are you entertaining? Are you funny? Are you particularly caring or a good listener? There's an exercise that I use, I may have mentioned it before, called positive personal qualities. And I love giving it to people because in some sense it's quite easy, because it has a full list of positive personal qualities. So you just pick the ones that you want to use. But seeing that can be like learning a whole new language, because we're not used to using that language, particularly on ourselves. Need a drink because my throat's going dry. Oh, forget the past. Concentrate on living in the here and now rather than reliving old hurts and disappointments. Okay, I hesitated with that one because in therapy we quite often go into the past. So I'm going to go with it. I think unless you are in a learned environment and drawing out the past is there for a reason, then yeah, but certainly don't live in the past. General rule of thumb would be, if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. Because if you're anxious, you're worried about the future, and if you're depressed or you're sad, then you're dwelling on what happened in the past. Only once we are in the here and now do we feel a lot more peaceful and a lot more calm. Tell yourself a positive message every day. This is where journaling comes into its own, because I would encourage you to write something down in a journal that was a really positive message to yourself. Journaling is really, really powerful. We've not done anything on journaling in here, but it is really, really powerful. Let's have a look. Talked about the Chimp Paradox. It's a great book. Chimp Paradox really highlights, now I talk about the primal need for us to survive, it really talks about chimp, which is our primal need. Can you see my little chimp? Where is he? If I go that way, he's about there. Look, my little chimp. He's a little black gorilla. He's really cute. I love him. So I've got my own little chimp in the room now. So yeah, it really highlights the chimp, and how the chimp is 5 times stronger and 5 times faster than the human part of our brain. And chimp is the primal part and the older part of our brain, but really, really powerful. So it's really important that we remember that part. What else? Tell yourself a positive message every day. Stop worrying. So simple. Just stop. Just stop doing it. Stop. Instantly now. I say, you stop worrying. No, it is hard to do that. What I always say about worrying is, if you can't change it, literally, if you can't change what you're worried about, then leave it alone. Because it's just going round in your head over and over and over again. And what good is that? What joy is that bringing into your world when we do that, when we repeat the same message over and over again in our mind? You hear that aeroplane outside? So yeah, stop worrying. Worry is simple fretting about the future. Accept that you can't see or change the future, and try to keep your thoughts in the here and now. I hear people arguing with me as I read that and saying, yeah, but if I worry about it, then I can change it because I can influence it. And the truth is, we don't know how the future is going to pan out. So therefore, we can only surmise how it's going to happen. And so I've had people in here that say, I have to go through 5 different scenarios, and once I've got 5 scenarios in my head, then I feel safe. That feels like an awful lot of thinking and an awful lot of energy used on that thinking right there. So please don't worry. Please, if you can't change it, remember this, if you can't change it, then please leave it alone and put it to bed, and give yourself just a little bit of peace. You know, we live on this earth day to day, and all I ever want is for people to live peacefully and happily and be really content with who they are. And we can't do that if we're really worried about the future. And I know that we're in the most unusual time right now. And I say that often because we are, but still I insist that we can find little pops of joy in the world that we live in right now. Even in the middle of a pandemic, we can be happy right now. Let's just put the what ifs drive me mad. So leave the what ifs alone. Just leave them alone, because there can be 20 what ifs, and imagine the energy that you're going to use by going through all 20 of those what ifs. Imagine that. I'm exhausted even thinking about it. Have fun. Schedule enjoyable events and activities into every week. So this is all about self-esteem building. Why have fun? Because it activates the brain and allows a little bit more freedom and fluidity in our brain, and takes us into flow state, takes us away from our head and takes us back into our heart. And you know, I've talked about head and heart before. We want to live here more than we live here. This is only for thinking. This is only for working out a route to get somewhere, whereas we really want to be here where we feel fun. And we've talked about this in the past for people that are regular in this group, in terms of finding your inner child and allowing that inner child to play a little bit. Remember the question I asked on inner child, and it was, what did you used to do as a child that you don't do now? And whatever it was, try and do it. Try and bring it back into play. I'm going to look at this time again. Good grief. So stop worrying, have fun, exercise. Exercise is just good for endorphins. It is such a good boost for the brain for all kinds of things, but especially in combating depression and helping you to feel good. Be assertive. Communicate your needs, wants, feelings, beliefs, and opinions to others in a direct and honest manner. That sounds a lot easier than what it might be for some people. I think what we're saying there is, being assertive or expressing your needs is really powerful and sends like a little love letter to the to our inside, to our little person inside. Because if we express our needs, if we express how we're feeling and what our needs are, to express our needs, I will say this: we have to know them. We have to understand our needs. And quite often, I'll say to people, "Do you know what your needs are?" And they'll go, "Actually, I really don't. I don't. I don't know what my needs are." So maybe we spend a bit of time working out what our needs are before we are then able to then pass them on to other people. But if you don't know what they are, then be honest and say, at the minute, I'm still working that one out, but I will get back to you as soon as I know. Okay? It's very, very respectful to be, I don't like the way it's been written there, by be assertive, but communicate. Whenever I'm working with couples in here, the absolute number one difficulty I always face is lack of communication, lack of understanding from both sides, lack of being heard. You know, we do that thing where we talk and we're talking, and actually what's happening in the other person's mind is they're forming their answer and not listening to what we're saying. Whereas actually what we want to happen is we want them to hear us, hear what we've got to say, and then form their answer and bring it back. Because if they're forming their answer or their defense, it's quite often defense, then they're not really listening to what we're saying, are they? And the last one on here is practice the above suggestions every day. It takes effort and vigilance to replace unhelpful thoughts and behaviours with healthier versions. Give yourself time to establish the new habits. Keep a diary or journal to chart your progress. I agree with that. I think doing something written every day can really help change this. If you want to make changes, then you are definitely going to put time and effort into it. Let me ask you this as a final question. Just checking the time. If you wanted to learn a new language, would you just expect words to jump into your head and for you to be, in 4 weeks' time, be fluent in Spanish? How would you learn Spanish if you can't speak Spanish? You would learn it by reading it, watching videos on it, listening to it, so hearing it via audio, and then you would practice it. And then you would put post-it notes up around. So I would put a post-it note on the cupboard that said mugs, and I would write mugs in Spanish, and I don't know what that is. Or I would put a post-it note on my lip balm that says lip balm, but I would practice it and I would put time and effort into it. If we want to change the thinking inside of our heads, and this taps back into what Philippa was saying, if we want to change the thinking inside of our heads, then we have to put time and effort into that. We have to put time and effort in, and we have to then practice and become vigilant in terms of changing it. Okay, the more time we put in, the more we are going to learn, and the quicker we are going to change. But it is the same process as learning a new language, exactly the same, because it is learning a new language. You're learning a new critical inner dialogue right there. Okay, so that's it. I'm just about done. Lindsay, but thank you so much for giving us your time. These lives have been so helpful for me. I can't wait for my mum to watch this tomorrow. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Lindsay. It's really nice to get feedback like that. I'm still looking for ideas on shows moving forward. I can come up with stuff, but I really want to do stuff that you're really interested in. If you don't want to put them on the feed here, then please private message me and I will pick them up there. Okay. Thank you again for your comments in here. They are amazing and they really make this what it is. Okay. Feel free to share these lives. Just land on my Facebook page. If people haven't got Facebook, then within about a week, everything goes across to my YouTube channel, which is Guthrie Therapy. There's almost 100 pieces of content on there now, so there's all sorts of stuff on there that you can wade through and watch if you want to go through further self-development. Don't forget, I've got a podcast out at the moment, Invincible You. This week was Jeanette Manrara. That is also on my Facebook page. and there's a video version of that coming out this weekend. Okay, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go because I think it's just about time for my tea. I get my tea made for me on a Wednesday. I get my tea made for me more and more. That's not fair. But on a Wednesday, I definitely get my tea made. So thank you. Have a wonderful week. Don't forget, I'm back tomorrow morning at 8:15 for a lockdown live. So tomorrow being Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So join me on one of those if you want. Share this content. Let's get it out there to other people. Be kind to yourself. Try and take some of this on board and share it with other people. You are worthy of maybe more than you're doing at the minute and more than you're getting. So please believe that. Okay. Love and peace to everybody. Take care. Bye bye.